Okay, I'm too lazy to wait for that to stop. So, probably just it's gonna be kind of weird because usually I have a brainstorming before the podcast, and now it's just like both the brainstorming and the podcast. So we'll just figure out how it goes. And then when we'll start like the actual part once that turns off.
Now you want me to have one of them look at it one more time to see if they can get it to shut off now?
If you want, do you want to see? It's been a couple minutes since since you turned it off, just in case. It's also kind of weird because I also never met you before, so it'll be both.
I know, and I haven't. I did see your interview with my father-in-law. It was really good.
That was a long time ago too.
Yeah,
that was about a year ago.
It didn't seem like because we had just saw it, so it was good.
So it's gonna be both the brainstorming and the podcast. So what's your backstory?
So my backstory is Stephen Nowlin, right? I was born in Buffalo, New York, October 19th, 1983. In which I was only there a few months, maybe 2-3 months after I was born. I moved to Memphis, Tennessee with my grandmother, and that's who ultimately raised me for the first portion of my childhood. She raised me until I was about 11, and then I moved with my aunt and uncle who was in the Air Force. I moved with them. And initially, we started out at Hanscom Air Force Base in Massachusetts. We stayed there 2-3 years. And then we moved here to Washington, D.C., where we were stationed at Bowling Air Force Base.
Okay.
My early on childhood was very, very...
sketchy?
Yes, yeah. So it was full of love. So when I tell these stories, I don't like, I try to make sure that we don't lose sight of that my childhood is, despite what it was, I was still surrounded by love, despite everything that was going on around, drug-infested neighborhood, so a lot of violence.
Okay, what were some of your memories from childhood?
Growing up at 999 Faxon Street in Memphis, Tennessee, North Memphis, Tennessee, man, with my grandmother, Barbara Jean Williams, and my granddad, Melvin Fish Williams. They called him Fish. He was essentially my dad, because he was the only dad I knew. They loved me to death. They were young, so they were still kind of in that age and phase of partying and stuff like that, while I was trying to take care of a young child in that particular environment, right? We had a house, but I never had a bedroom, right? In the beginning.
Was it a one-room house?
Yes.
Okay.
It was a duplex, and we stayed on one side, and my great-great-granny stayed on the other side. So my great-great-granny owned the duplex, so from the early childhood, just growing up in that environment, being raised essentially by they were my grandparents, but they were young, and they were partying and stuff like that. It kind of led me astray.
Okay, your grandparents were partying.
Yes.
Okay. How old were they?
If my memory serves me correct, they had to be like in their 30s at that time.
Grandparents, but 30s.
If my math is serving me correct, so my grandmother had my mother when she was 14.
Oh, okay.
And my mother had me when she was 23. Right. So okay, that's kind of like quick math.
Yeah, and you were like 4 or 5
when I moved with them.
Yeah.
No, like three months.
3 months. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So very early. Okay.
Yeah. So don't quote me on the math. It was just that's where I figured they were in their 30s at that point, and so they was partying, which kind of like led me to. I grew up in the South, and in the South, there's certain things that go. Like certain rules, right, with families and parents and adults and children, right? Children don't hang around where adults are. So kind of put me in this position of, you know, go outside and play because ain't nothing in here but grown folks kind of situation. And because of all of that, it led me to be out in the streets all times of nights, getting in, trouble and doing just things that I had no business doing as a kid.
Yeah. Were there a lot of gangs in the area?
No, not at the time. Like there was some gang culture in Memphis at the time, but it was mostly like neighborhood stuff. It was mostly neighborhood type beefs and stuff like that. Which is interesting because I initially, when I went initially in elementary school, I went to a school called Gordon Elementary in Memphis, Tennessee, and it's in an area called Smoky City. Right, that was the name of that area in that part of town. And then somehow the school zones got rezoned, and just so happened that everybody on my street that lived on my side of the street, we got rezoned to a school called Carnes Elementary, which is in another neighborhood called Dixie Homes, which is a rival. So, and I was the only kid on my side in my neighborhood that lived on my side of the street, so I ended up having to go to Carnes Elementary by myself.
Okay. The neighborhoods, were those the neighborhood names or were they like the in-house neighborhood names?
So like Smoky City.
Yeah. Was that like an actual geographic name? Okay.
And it's just the community names inside of North Memphis, right? And Dixie Homes were a project in that part of Memphis as well. So it was like neighborhood stuff, like as far as beefs and rivals and stuff like that. And I found myself in a situation where I had no choice but to be in the enemy territory because I had to go to school. Mm-hmm. Up until I didn't go to school anymore, right? So you had those things going on, a lot of violence, a lot of robberies, a lot of drugs, just a lot of everything. People just trying to survive, right? People just trying to survive, and yeah, that's how that part of it kind of played out. But again, I didn't have a bedroom. I slept on a let-out couch in the living room. That was like my bedroom, and that's unfortunately where everybody was partying, right? And it caused me to just be out all types of night. Caused me, ask friends hey man, ask your mom if I could spend a night tonight, type stuff. And yeah, but I say all that to say that despite what it sound like and look like, I was still surrounded by love. Yeah. They loved me to death.
What kind of love would you describe it to be?
Just genuine. I was their baby. I was genuinely that baby. And especially my granddad, who I call him, this is my dad. Mm-hmm. Like I was baby boy, and baby boy can get whatever baby boy want, no matter how we got to go get it, So those are the circumstances. So about around the time, fast forwarding, about around the time I my aunt and uncle came around to take me when I was 11. At that point, I wasn't in school anymore. I got expelled in the 4th grade. For essentially fighting a teacher.
Nice.
As you get older, you realize, I was wrong, but at the time,
At the time, it seemed like a good idea.
Yeah, and we were both wrong, right? Teacher kind of put his hands on me first, and it just turned into that thing. And then next thing you know, I'm expelled in the 4th grade, right? And so by the time my aunt and uncle came and got me when I was about 10 or 11, we had to go through the juvenile court systems because I already had a record at this point.
You got the record because you got expelled? Or
No, they was, yeah, they were burglary charges. So, 2 of them. I always got caught. I only always got caught when I was with a certain group. When I was with everybody else, we never got caught. So I should have learned my lesson. You stop hanging with these people, right? But they had to jump through a lot of hoops to be able to take me. 1, because I was on probation, and 2, they had to jump through a lot of hoops to get me back enrolled in school when we left. When I left Memphis.
When you went to the Air Force?
To Massachusetts, okay. Yes. I didn't know I was leaving. Nobody knew I was leaving. So it was kind of like in the middle of the night type thing. I just got in the car with them, thought I was going on vacation, and just never came back. Got to Massachusetts, and it was the ultimate culture shock. Because I went from growing up in the neighborhood, everybody looked like me, to now I'm like one of like 5, right? And it was very much so a culture shock in the beginning, because when you grow up down south, everything is very much still segregated, Downtown areas are typically the mingling spots, but as far as like sides of town, you had the white side of town, black side of town. We didn't interact.
Yeah, and this was the late 80s, early 90s?
Yes. So we didn't interact, right? Downtown was the only place you really saw black people and white people in the same area. And but now I'm in Massachusetts, and the only thing that I know about white people is essentially what I read in history books, what I learned in history, and what I saw on TV, which none of it was good, right? Coming from a black person's point of view, right? None of it was good. So I kind of had this chip on my shoulder of, they're not gonna talk to me any kind of way. They're not gonna treat me any kind of way. It's gonna be consequences and repercussions. So for like the first month I was in Massachusetts, I fought every day. I mean, I was cracking heads every day, just because I didn't understand what was happening. And I thought everything was racist, and things of that nature. But I ended up moving with them, and I ended up enrolling in school. And I was in the 4th grade. I had to start back over. So I was in the 4th grade. So at this point, I'm 2 grades behind, right? Which I pretty much stayed 2 grades behind the rest of my school years. One because of the expulsion, and one because my birthday, I got a late birthday. So I was always a year behind anyway. So we get to Massachusetts culture shock, trying to adjust. Like I said, it's like 5, other black kids there, but we nothing alike. We don't have anything in common, right? So I didn't even know how to really accept their friendships, because it just wasn't what I was used to. So then we get there. I get adjusted, because my uncle was very, very, very much a disciplinarian, and I got spankings all the time, man. Like, it seemed like I was getting spanked every day for like the first 3 months I lived with them, and it was for silly things to me, right? In comparison to the things that I would get doing in Memphis and getting in trouble for, and I wasn't getting spankings. You whooping me for being 1 minute late on curfew is crazy. But in hindsight, I get it. It was just trying to instill some discipline or whatnot. So my uncle then became my new dad, He became my new dad, my new father figure, and he ran a tight ship. He ran a tight ship.
What was his rank in the Air Force?
He retired. It was E7. I know he retired at E7.
Okay.
In the Air Force, I don't know if that's tech sergeant, I believe, maybe. But that's where he retired. He retired once we got here to Bowling. But yeah, so they were young. My aunt and uncle, they were young. They was in their 20s. They already had their own 2 kids, you know, and they took on a 3rd child, which they didn't have to. But again, like I've always been just surrounded with love. You know, people always wanted me to do well, despite my circumstances, you know. And I thank them for that. I always looked at it as my second chance at life. And I learned a lot living like moving with them initially, because like my uncle was, you know, he was the first black man that I saw make an honest living, right? And this is 11 years old, you know. Now, that's not to say that the black man that I was around before wasn't working. They worked, but they also hustled. They also, you know, schemed and scammed and all those kind of things. But my uncle Angelo, he was the first black man I saw make an honest living. He it's hard for me to talk about him because he transitioned last year. Damn it. It's just hard for me to talk about him because he just died last year. He was my superhero. So, but yeah, it's like there's only been 2 people in my entire life that I ever wanted to make proud. He was one of them, and my dad, Fish, and they both gone. So they never. My dad, Fish, never got to see any of this, cause he died not too long after I left. So yeah, it's just hard for me to talk about them. But when I saw him, man, it's just, I wanted my life to be just like his. I was like, man, I had already ingrained in my mind back then that the military was a very strong option for me, because I was like, dang, they give you a house, they give you food, they give you stability. Like, you ain't got to look over your shoulder, you know, to protect yourself from somebody trying to rob you or the police or anything like that, because that's the only other thing that I knew from growing up in my neighborhood was the only way to get some money is to sell some dope, you know. And unfortunately, that was the path that I was about to head down. And my grandmother saw it. She saw it, and that's why she sent me away, because she didn't want that for me. But yeah, so I moved with them, culture shock, you know, all the discipline stuff. And then eventually I caught on that, you know, I started playing sports, played everything, baseball, football, basketball, played everything. Ironically, I was good at everything. But I fell in love with football. And, you know, the football thing is what gave me an idea to possibly have another path outside of the military, right? And, you know, as I grew and I got better and better, and we moved to DC. Now I'm in high school. Football became a real possibility for me to go make it. And and that's what I pursued. But the military was always in the back of my mind, right? So again, fast forward, now we leave Massachusetts and we moved to DC. Bowling Air Force Base is over in Southeast DC. I graduated from Baloo Senior High School, which is in Southeast DC. And the reputation that part of the city gets is pretty notorious rep, but it's an area it got its issues, but it's an area that's full of love as well. If you're doing something positive, right? But we moved there. That was, I want to say 98, 99, 1998, 99 is when we moved to DC. And kind of reestablished ourselves. But the difference is, now I'm back in DC. Now I'm back in the city, in an area where everybody look like me again, right? But it's different this time around because of my exposure to the other side in Massachusetts. So I don't have the same point of view anymore. So I know how to carry myself. I know how to not get myself in trouble. I know how to avoid trouble now, right? It's just by keeping myself busy, staying engaged with sports, occupying my time. And when I wasn't playing sports, I'll have like little side odd jobs to make some money. Whether I was bagging groceries at the grocery store or shoveling snow, raking leaves, cutting grass. It was just, those are the things that my uncle instilled in us, me and my cousin Lo. So my cousins are like my siblings, Angelo Jr. and Dominique Woodson. They're like my brother and sister because we all were raised in the same house by the same guy, the same parents, right? And as far as me and Angelo Jr., we call him Lo. Like my uncle instilled in us, a man gonna get up and go work. You're gonna get up, you're gonna go work, you're gonna go earn $1. And you're gonna learn how to save, you're gonna learn how to buy the things you want. So that's how that was. But get to DC, I made a pretty solid name for myself pretty quickly. Just my sports ability and stuff like that, and just my character. Like I've never been naive to the fact that people have always been drawn to my personality, so people kind of gravitated toward me, whatnot. So I didn't have those issues that some would have transitioning to that type of environment, Yeah. And then I graduated high school in 2003. And then I go to Tennessee State University, which is where I met my wife. We met freshman year. And we went there, and college was a very good experience, very fun experience. TSU was a HBCU, so it's kind of like, it felt good, being in this type of environment around people that look like me as well. So, yeah. Get there, meet my wife. We played around for about 10 years before we eventually got married. but it worked itself out, right? I graduated undergrad. I graduated in December 2007 with a bachelor's in agricultural science. And I graduated grad school in May 2010 with a master's of science in agricultural science as well. Yeah. So doing that in the in between time while I was trying to figure out what I was going to do with my life, I kind of, at this point, I done gave up on football. And in the back of my mind, I knew I was going to the military. I was just completing college because I started college. And I just like to finish what I start, you know. Became one of the first in my family to do it, you know. And it felt crazy, but it felt good being able to give my family something to cheer about like that, you know, or being the one, you know. So I ended up staying in Nashville a little while. I was working in banking, and I was gonna try to do the whole, you know, get a job in my field of study, try to give it a shot, whatnot. It didn't really pan out because there was things that I didn't know when it came to the politics of it, of internship and all that kind of stuff. I didn't know those things because when I went to college, like, I didn't go to college with dreams, you know. I was never that kid to have, you know, I guess I didn't have the opportunity to grow up fantasizing and dreaming because I was too caught up in real life and trying to survive every day in real life. And so I didn't have time to do all of that goal stuff. So when I got in college and everybody was asking, I mean, what are you going to do with your degrees? Man, I don't know. Like, well, what do you want to do? I just never want to be poor again. That's always been my ultimate goal, is to just never be poor again. I never want to be poor again. And the military was a way that I knew for sure that I could create some stability for myself and a family if I decided to have one, you know. So the whole time I was in grad school, I already knew I was going to the military. And everybody was like, man, what you gonna do? Man, I'm going to the military. I went to the military, man. I already know what I'm gonna do. And what ended up happening was I tried to do the working thing. My wife, she wasn't my wife at the time, but she lived in Chicago. She had left Nashville. After she graduated undergrad, she left Nashville and went to Chicago. And I called her one day and I was like, hey, man, I'm about to move up there. And she was like, where you gonna stay? I was like, I'm gonna stay with you. And she was like, okay, I guess, you know. And it was kind of one of those things. I had a backup plan. My backup plan was my best friend. My best friend, Big Joe, him and his family they lived up there as well. So my backup plan was to stay with them until I got on my feet. If I couldn't stay with my wife Jaquise, and yeah, she accepted me in, so that was a blessing. I ended up getting a job with JP Chase while I was there, and I was only there a year. That was maybe I think I got there in 2011. No, 2012. I got there 2012. And we ended up, and I ended up, going through the process to enlist into the Army while I was there. And we ended up getting married in November of 2012. November 16th to be exact, 2012. And so at that point, we got married. Now I have a ship date to go to basic training and get my military career started. And she held me down the whole time I was gone. I left pretty much broke, busted, and disgusted because I had no savings. I had nothing but debt, all these bills and things. And then I got to basic training, and I graduate basic training and come home, and she did it. She had my credit up. My credit was up. All my debt was paid off. And for the first time in my life, I had money in savings, and she did that she did that because she had the discipline to do it. I would have never had the discipline to do it, So I graduate basic training in 2013. I shipped out January 29, 2013 to go to basic training. And I graduated 10 weeks later. And the rest has been history since then, man. Like we got our first duty station, which was Fort Riley, Kansas. So we packed up Chicago, moved to Kansas, and she been riding with me, man, ever since. And we established ourselves in Kansas, and then we ended up having our first child in Kansas. That was my son Parker. We ended up having him, and he was born in Kansas City in 2016. At the same time, I had got selected to Officer Candidate School, OCS for the Army, because I already had my college degree and stuff, so I was commissioning as an officer. Completed everything successfully. And just been able to provide for my family ever since, man. Yeah. We moved, we stayed in Kansas until 2017. And then we moved to Colorado Springs, which is at Fort Carson, Colorado, which is where my daughter was born, Zoe. She was born in 2019 in Colorado Springs. And so we grew our family, and then, my career was blessed. Like, my career was taking off, man. It's taking off.
How would you define love?
It's just a genuine expression. I don't describe love as words, as far as like saying I love you and all those things. I believe in the showing. I believe it's an expression.
So it's more of an actual.
It's an action. Yes. Like you show me. You can. Like you demonstrate love. You don't speak love. If that makes sense. So that, to me, that's what it is.
Yeah. I was thinking about this last night, actually, before I was going to sleep. So the way I see it is that there's like three kinds of people. There's those who will say they do something and never do it. The ones who say they're going to do it and they get it done. And the people who don't say they're going to do anything and then they get it done. Which is like a progression of actionable things to do. I never trust the people who say they're going to do something and never do it. Or say they're going to do something and never do it. But the ones who never said that they're going to do it and still do it anyways, like a whole value difference.
Yeah. So that comes down to like expectations, right? of people, of others or whatnot. And one thing I don't do is I don't expect anything from anybody. I don't have expectations. I just don't. And it's because we truly only can control ourselves, right? I'm not in control of no one. You're not in control of anyone. You're only in control of yourself. So to expect things out of expectations just only lead to disappointment as well. So that's why I don't expect things from people, you know. I just expect myself to always just be kind, be humble, be kind, and be a resource for people, like be a resource or a place of comfort for people, you know, for them to be able to confide in and just get an honest point of view of the things they may be going through. So to your point, it's the trust piece is because you expect that person that said they're gonna do it to do it, right? And they let you down because you expect them to do it because they said they're gonna do it. I don't expect them to do it because they said they're gonna do it, right? Because I know anything can happen, right? I just, I hope they would do it because they said they would do it, you know? But if they don't do it, I'm not like overly disappointed or anything like that. It's just like, yeah, I'm gonna call you on it. I'm gonna call you on your BS. I'm going to be like, hey man, when you gonna do X, Y, Z, you know? But there's no hard feelings behind it because I never expected you to, and didn't have no expectation anyway, right?
So you don't have expectations, but you won't trust them on that thing again.
No, it's
okay.
not. I would.
Oh.
I would, because it's like my trust ain't built on the expectation.
Okay. What's your trust built on?
My trust is built on my relationship, you know? It's built on my relationship with the individual. I trust that I'm a good enough human being that you'll want to do right by me. That's what I trust, right? I trust that you'll be able to see that I'm genuine enough for you to be genuine with me as well. That's what I trust. But as far as like the expectation and just, you know, I trust what people show me. You know, there's this I don't, you know who Lil Boosie is? All right, so Lil Boosie is a rapper from Baton Rouge, Louisiana. And I saw an interview that he was doing on the Breakfast Club, and he talked about his counseling session with his therapist, and the therapist acknowledged to him that because he was always so disappointed in people and didn't have no trust and all this stuff, and the therapist basically told him, like, why would you trust? Like, why would you trust or expect these things from these people, and they never demonstrated to you that they were capable? They never demonstrated to you they was capable of telling you the truth. They was never demonstrated to you that they was capable of managing your finances. They never demonstrated any of these things that you expected from them and trusted that they can get done. They never demonstrated that they can actually do any of those things. So the issue ain't them. The issue is you. The issue is your expectations of them. You expect them to do things that they never showed you they was capable of doing.
How would you define capability?
Just what you can do. Like what's in your realm. I think most people are capable of way more than they believe that they are. They just may need some guidance on it, and they just have to be receptive of that guidance. But it's just based on your abilities.
How would you define discipline?
Standards.
Standards.
Just standard bearing, being a standard bearing person. Essentially, like, for lack of better terms, institutionalizing yourself. Self-institutionalization.
Never heard that before. I like it.
Yeah, I think I just made that up, but it felt good coming out. But that's what I believe. That is.
Yeah.
That's what I believe discipline is, and it's because you got to be able to hold yourself accountable to do the right thing, even when nobody's looking, at all times. That's discipline. Discipline is carving out a lane, staying in your lane. That's discipline. Discipline is, hey, something as simple as, hey, you walk on the right side of the hallway. And just knowing to do that, naturally doing it, that's discipline,
Have you ever seen Shawshank Redemption?
Yeah, but I don't remember it as much because it's not one I watched a million times.
Yeah. There's one quote that I like. Red was talking about the prison, so if I remember the quote correctly, it's, these walls are funny. First you get used to them, first you fear them, then you get used to them. Sooner or later you end up depending on them. That's institutionalized.
Yeah. And it's the same thing with disciplines. Standards and discipline. Right? It's in a good way though. When it comes to standards and discipline, being institutionalized is good. It's a good thing because it helps you develop good habits.
Do you have a separation between feelings and emotions?
Kinda.
Okay. Because usually with discipline, it's always tied somewhere with motivation, and motivation's usually, from what I see, it's a accumulation of feelings and emotions on how you motivate towards a discipline.
So even with the feelings thing, man, I have a philosophy on feelings.
Okay, what's your philosophy on feelings?
My philosophy on feelings is everybody responsible for their own feelings. Like, I'm not responsible for, feelings and emotions are one and the same.
Okay, they're synonyms.
Because they drive each other, right?
Okay.
But as far as like feelings, I feel like, I'm not responsible for your feelings. So like if I was to get on here and say something, crazy that may offend you or whatever the case may be.
I highly doubt it,
but I'm just saying, like, if so, like, just in a typical fashion, the person gets offended and now they're all emotional and in their feelings and all these things, right? Some would look at me and say that I should have knew better than to say, well, I was wrong to say whatever it is I said to trigger these emotions and these feelings and all these things. And I would say no, because that's like me saying what I said is me controlling that's me being in control of my emotions and my feelings. Yeah. Now, how you take that is you being in control of your emotion, your feelings. So, kind of ties back into expectations of people, man. And, I don't expect people to call on my feelings. Because my feelings ain't their responsibility. It's my own. And I'm not too emotional of a person. I don't get too high. I don't get too low. Pretty even keel across the board. Unless, depending on the conversation. If it's a good debate or something going on, oh man, I get off on playing devil's advocate. Like, I get off on playing devil's advocate. I could look you in the eye and stone cold agree. But just because, for the sake of the conversation, I'll play devil's advocate, just to get you to see the other point of view.
I did have a question on when you went from Tennessee to Massachusetts. Was it more of a fear of getting pain, or was it more of fear of alienation?
As far as
When you now are in a complete different, like a whole different environment, was it more that you just didn't want to get hurt again, or was it more of just you felt like you didn't belong?
I felt like I didn't belong. Because I was too different, you know. Most of these on the military installation, most of these kids they growing up in 2-parent households, and with their actual biological parents and things of that nature. And I didn't have any of that. I never had any of that. They grew up under the structures and disciplines of, rules and things that their parents or their, instilled in them, and I didn't have that. Like, I was able to run loose when I was growing up in Memphis because, again, they were partying, So I didn't have that until I didn't have that discipline, or no one even trying to instill it until I moved with my auntie and uncle.
Would you describe the life that you had in, I mean, not as an absolute, but the life that in Tennessee versus Massachusetts, was it like a soft life versus a hard life? When it comes to like that partying was like this was the soft life, and then the discipline in military was more of a hard life.
No, it's the opposite.
Opposite.
Yeah. Because it's like when you growing up poor, man, and in that kind of environment, it's just normal because everybody around here is going through this, right? So we just made it normal. But again, like the only thing that can carry you in those environments is love, right? And being surrounded by love. So that's why I say, despite the circumstances, I never felt unloved. You know what I mean? It was easy because it was we knew how to survive. Like, by any means necessary, we knew how to survive. So that meant going to steal something or rob somebody or whatever it took to survive. We knew how to do that. And it was second nature. So it felt easy, right? It was I say the other side of that is like moving and getting now I'm under these standards and these disciplines and all that. It was a hard adjustment for me because I went from rules to no rules. Went from no rules to rules. So it was a harder adjustment. Better quality of life, I would say, because of the stability that the military provided. Like, I have a room now. I shared a room with my cousin Lo, but I had a bedroom. I had a bed inside of a room, not a couch bed in the living room. So I had those things, but it was harder to adjust because I just felt like an outcast. Like, nobody understood me, and I didn't understand them.
It's almost like speaking another language.
Yeah, because it's but we eventually grew past all of that.
Yeah. Do you know the one quote, "The road to heaven feels like hell, and the road to hell feels like heaven"?
I never heard it.
It's one of my quotes that I like to think about. It's like, whenever you're doing the hard stuff, it's probably to a better ending. Whereas if you're doing the soft stuff, it's like you could be killing yourself in the process.
Yeah, I like it.
It's funny. I know people in they're either in their 20s or their 30s. I'm 21, so like I don't relate to a lot of people my age. And whenever they do something stupid, I sometimes I just tell them directly, you could be doing so much better with your life. And there's people in their 30s, sometimes in their 40s, and they're like, oh, we're going to do this thing. And it's like, it's a really stupid thing. And like, obviously you can't change anyone. You can take them for who they are. Obviously care about their past, help them with their future, but like, you can't change who they are now. Only they can change themselves.
And that's at every age you're going to experience that, but it all has to do with upbringing, influence. Influence is everything, man. So if you haven't been encouraged and influenced to do better or to even know how to look for things to do better, you're probably going to not do better, right? So being in the Army, right? Being in the Army, and especially as a leader, the one thing I've always been self-conscious of, and I tried to make sure my counterparts and everybody else was self-conscious of, is that these soldiers are children. They just have adult jobs, right? Because in the military, the job that they ask, like the job that you're asked to do in the military, which is essentially go to war, right? That's a very grown-up adult job. But you got these 17, 18, 19-year-old kids signing up to do it, and the expectation is that they come in and instantly turn into adults. And it's not realistic. Yeah. It's not realistic, right? Some of them get it, some of them do, but you can tell it's based on their upbringing, right? If they was brought up by either disciplined parents, older parents, those type soldiers typically come in with a little bit more maturity, right? They just kind of keep their head low, do their job, go home, things of that nature. It's everybody else that don't come from the single parent household, or they got super young parents and things of that nature. They come in with this sense of entitlement. They expect everything to be done for them, but nothing to be done to them, And, it happens. It happens.
Of the recruits that you get, obviously I don't want to deal in absolutes, but what's one of the biggest contributors to a successful soldier?
Just listen. Right, be in the right place, right time, right uniform, and you're gonna have a great career. It's that simple. They come in, they listen, and it'll carry them a long way.
Yeah, there was one quote, I can't remember what it was exactly, that most people listen with the intent to respond, but not with the intent to understand. Something along those lines.
Yes. Yeah. That's a conversation I'm always having. And, particularly with my wife, I'm always having that conversation. Listen to listen, don't listen to respond. And maybe you'll hear things, and you'll hear the message a whole lot clearer when you do that. Because when you listen, like you're speaking and you both listening to respond, conversation just gonna keep going in a circle. It is never gonna go anywhere. It's never gonna get off of that circle and get on a straight path, because nobody is trying to hear anything. They're not trying to understand anything. But that'll carry you a long way if you listen to understand. You can interact while you're listening. But make sure you're listening to understand as well.
How do you, two questions when you were talking, whichever one you want to go off of. What does it mean to be an adult, or how would you combat entitlement?
What does it mean to be an adult is, you got a lot of responsibilities, man, as an adult. You got bills. It's not just an age thing, It's the age plus your responsibilities. Like, hey, I know 21-year-olds that don't have no responsibility. Hey, they're not adults. They're not adults yet. But as far as that entitlement piece, that entitlement comes down to, again, upbringing. Like, if everything was always handed to you, you come to expect everything to always be handed to you. And the moment somebody challenges you or expect and make you go to actually do something to get it, you get uncomfortable. You're gonna be uncomfortable, because you've been entitled to these things the entire time, and now they've been taken away.
The neighborhoods in Tennessee, were those not completely, but was one of the problems entitlement? That they thought they were entitled? No.
No. Nobody in my neighborhood felt entitled to anything, because everybody was broke. Everybody was struggling, trying to make ends meet. Yeah. So nobody felt entitled to anything, other than hustle. You felt like that's the only entitlement that was going on around there, the entitlement to hustle. Now, as far as like you don't get, like, in those type of environments, you don't really come across that, that sense of entitlement like that. It's environments like these where it's very comfortable, and it's been very comfortable your entire life, where you start to develop those entitlement characteristics. Like my kids, for example, man, they expect to always be going somewhere, right? They expect to be able, like, they expect to go to the jump park all the time. They expect to go to Cheesecake Factory all the time. They expect whatever they ask for us to deliver it, right? And it's just because, for the most part, whether it's us or their grandparents, somebody gonna say yeah, somebody's gonna say yeah, and they're gonna get it. So occasionally, I'm the no guy, and I'll just say no just cause. Like, sometimes it's for a legit reason, and sometimes it's just cause I can't say no, because they need to. That's how you kind of break that. You break that entitlement piece of phase of them, so they understand how to accept the answer no to get things.
Yeah. Another thing that you mentioned a little earlier, honest living. What would you describe would be an honest living?
Working man. Like, you get up, you go clock in. You can do your 40 hours a week and get your paycheck at, every 2 weeks.
Probably a better question. How would you differentiate differentiate a living versus an honest living?
Anybody can live, like I said, even in the ghettos, even in the hood, man, everybody's in survival mode. And because they're in survival mode, earning a living the best way they know how, it doesn't matter how that is, whether that's scheming, scamming, selling drugs, whatever the case may be, right? They making a living still, but it's not an honest living, because it's not something that's maintainable. It's not something that's it's not something that's legally maintainable. And the honest living is something that's legally maintainable. I got this job through this corporation or at this company, or, and I get paid a paycheck. I get a direct deposit, Most people that's making a living don't got no direct deposit. Everything's cash on delivery.
Yeah.
You know? So, yeah, I would say that's the difference between the two. It's just the honest living is something that you... It was completely legal, 100% legal. And just earning a living, like it doesn't have, or just earning a living don't have to be 100% legal.
Right. So if you didn't have, like when you were in college and you weren't getting the degree because of a dream or a fantasy, because you wanted to get a degree, what kept you going?
I started it. Yeah, I started it. So, I wanted to finish it, and I knew it would make my family proud, you know, because that's what they wanted, you know. They wanted to raise kids, send them to college, you know, for them to graduate college and things of that nature. So it's a lot of that played a role in me staying and finishing. Now I went to grad school because grad school happened by chance, because I didn't enroll in grad school until the week I was crossing the stage. Undergrad is the same week I enrolled in grad school. Had to get a lot of strings pulled for me to be able to start right away in that following spring. So I didn't have no gap. And that was because I tried to live up to others' expectations, right? Go to college, get a degree, find a job in that field of study. I tried to give that a shot because I knew that's what my family would want, right? And but it wasn't necessarily what I wanted. It didn't work. And then I ended up like enrolling in grad school because I didn't have anything lined up. But I refused to come back home. So it was like, okay, well, I don't have a job or anything. But I'm not going back home. You know. I didn't want to come back home and essentially be a disappointment of, you know, of wasted money. So I just stayed and went to grad school. And then the whole time I was in grad school, at that point I figured out, you know, I'm going to the military. I'm gonna finish this because I started it, but I'm going to the military.
So would you say one of your biggest values that you hold is commitment? Not, well, the commitment that you hold to others, but more importantly, the commitment that you keep to yourself.
Yes. Yeah.
Where do you think that started from?
I mean, I've been fending for myself most of my life. So when you live that way, you develop that, like, you know, again, you can't trust nobody. You have to most certainly trust yourself. You know, you have to most certainly trust yourself. So you can't lie to yourself. You know, you just have to. If you tell yourself that's what you're gonna do, you gotta do everything to make strides toward doing what it is you said you're gonna do. Because shoot, self-let down is probably more damaging than letting down somebody else. Right? Because you're disappointing yourself.
When you have self-let down, is that failure or is that quitting?
It depends. It can be both. Because you can have that. You can quit and create. You know, just quitting and procrastination are those are self-sabotagers, right? And those two things.
So you see procrastination as a form of failure?
Yes.
It's interesting. I never thought of it that way.
Yes. Because ultimately that's what it leads to. Unless you're like me, where so in the military we had this thing called pace count, right? Pace count is how many steps it takes you to, like how many steps it takes you to go this amount of distance, right? in however much time, right? I pride myself on knowing my pace count, figuratively and physically, right? So I say that a lot. I'm like, so we may agree to do something or something like that. We may have a deadline on it. And in your mind, you're like, hey man, let's just get it done. Let's get it done. Let's get it done. And in my mind, I'm like, man, I know my pace count. I know it's only going to take me 10, 15 minutes to get it done. But we got two weeks to get it done. So why you rushing me? You're right. So I get that part of it. But most people ain't like that. Most people procrastinate. Procrastination leads to never doing. And it's just because you constantly in your own head, like in your own way, you created this barrier to just get in your own way from completing whatever task that is, right? It's like the new year, new me resolutions. Every year, January 1st, that first week of January, the gym is gonna be packed, right? The weeks leading up to that, you already knew you were trying to lose weight. Why didn't you just start then? Right? You wait till January 1st. Now you done got in here. You may did a week and then all of a sudden you're sore, you're tired, and now you procrastination setting in. Oh, I'm sore today, so I'm not gonna go today. And then not going today turns to not going to tomorrow. Not going tomorrow turns to I ain't went the rest of the month. Before you know it, we in December again, and you still preparing for this new year, new you, right?
So what's the difference between procrastinating and having patience?
Knowing your pace count. Like knowing your pace count. Procrastinating essentially is knowing I need to get up and do it now, but I don't feel like it. So I'm gonna give myself all the excuses in the world. I'm gonna give myself all the reasons in the world why I don't have to get up and do it right now.
So the difference is how honest you are with how you feel.
Right? With yourself. You gotta know yourself.
So it's knowing your limitations, both what you limit yourself to and what you're actually limited to.
Yes. Exactly.
Or what self-imposed limitations versus actual limitations.
Exactly. And a lot of times people will self-impose a lot of limitations on themselves. Yeah. As far as patience is concerned, patience to me that's when it comes to it's more so between multiple people, right? Between two. So patience, like we have a group assignment, right? Like I've done my part, and we can turn it in early if you do your part right now. But we have a deadline, right? The patience is me falling back and, just falling back and trusting that you're going to get your part done and we're going to have it turned in on time. That's patience. Even patience with yourself. Patience with yourself is more so just trusting your process. That no matter what it is you're trying to do, you trust in your process that it'll get done in time.
So does it come down to desire? How much do you genuinely desire it versus how much? So patience is you desire something a lot, but you have to wait, versus procrastination is you don't really desire it, but you want it to extend more so it doesn't feel as painful.
Procrastination piece is more so you really desire it. You just don't desire what it's going to take to get there,
You desire the outcome, but not the work.
not the work. Exactly.
When you said that you took pride in your pace count, would you say the difference between good pride and bad pride is the amount of evidence you have to back it up?
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I take pride in knowing my pace count. Like, I know what it's gonna take. But that's because I know how far I'm willing to go to get things done. Yes. Like, I value my name. I value my name. And the moment you attach my name to it, hey man, whatever needs to be done is going to get done because my name is attached to it now, and and we have to get it done now because I have that much pride in my name.
Does that tie into honor? Your name is your honor. Your name is your pride, your source of everything.
Yeah, my name, man, because your name is you. Your name is you, right? You either want, when your name come up in discussions, you either want people in the room to smile, frown, scowl, or whatever, man. But that's what people are gonna do when your name come up in rooms. And you want people to smile when your name come up in rooms. You want positive conversation to happen when your name to come up in rooms, you know? Like, hey, man, Steve, oh man, hey, if anybody get it done, he'll get it done. You know, like, you want that conversation to be happening around your name, you know? So that's why I have that much pride in my name.
It's interesting when you said all those words, you didn't say indifference. You said either positive or negative, but you didn't say indifference.
The only people in there that will be indifferent are people that don't know you, right? They don't know you. They're hearing about it. They're curious, you know, but they just don't know. That's the only reason they're indifferent, right? They don't know you one way or another. They don't know you in a good. They don't know you for good. They don't know you for bad.
So you value your reputation, and you strive to make sure that what you do today will create the reputation that you want tomorrow.
Yes. Which is positive, man. I just like to have a positive impact on people. Cause I care about people a lot, man. Knowledge, information, wisdom. Like, I'm one of those people, man. The moment I learn it, I'm looking for somebody to spread this information to, you know, just because that's what we're supposed to do, right? We're not supposed to learn the information and keep it to ourselves.
If it's too sensitive a topic, then you don't have to. I can figure out something else to talk about. How would you describe your uncle?
Oh man, that was my guy. Yeah, that was my superhero, man. Like I said, first black man I saw make an honest living. And he was cool, you know, cool guy, man. Living the dream, you know, that every young man want to live, you know. Handsome guy, you know. He had money in his pockets, you know, had his family. Ironically, my entire life is literally patterned after his, man. Literally, right? He married my auntie, which is my mom's sister. Kathy. My mom's sister's his name is Kathy. And they had 2 children, you know, a boy and a girl. So it was like, oh man, he married a black woman. I gotta marry a black woman. He had 2 kids. I gotta have 2 kids. He had a boy and a girl. God just so happened to give me a boy and a girl, but it was my dream, you know, to have a boy and a girl too. Right? He did the military. I did the military. You know, in my military career, I was able to kind of like allow him to live out his military dreams too, because I was able to take it further. Right? He did his 20 years and retired as an E7. And here I sit as a captain, you know, in the Army, pending promotion. we gonna, to major. So, but I was able to take it further, pick up the ball from where he had and take it further, and he was always proud of that.
Yeah.
So, yeah, man, like, very, very cool, calm, and collective guy, man. Everybody loved him. He was stern. He was stern. Like when it came, he was a serious man too. When it came to being a man, he was serious. But he was fun loving guy, man. Always smiling, laughing. Until one of us, the kids, did something to make him not. But that's just who he was, man.
What are some of your favorite stories?
With him? Oh man, how he used to turn everything. I don't know if the language. So, but yeah, like how he would turn everything. He would turn every situation into something about being about an ass whooping, right? So he would come in the house and we could be like, "Hey man, hello, you trying to go to the store?" And my uncle be like, "I'm finna go to the store on y'all ass in a minute. If y'all don't get out here and take this trash out, like that's just kind of person he was." So like those are my fondest memories, man. Like,
so it was for him. It was always duty first, comfort later.
Yeah. Like, Saturday mornings be like, man, if you're not out the house and gone before he wake up, by the time he wake up on Saturday morning, you best believe y'all about to be out there in that yard doing some work. And I used to be, Saturday morning, I'm up at 6 o'clock on a Saturday morning. I got my keys to my car and I'm gone. They like, where you at? Oh, I came to work. I went to work. Oh, okay. Don't worry about it. We got that yard work when y'all get back, So that was him, man. Like one time he called us before we left on a Saturday morning. He said, hey, y'all stay right here till I get back real quick. I just got to run to Home Depot really quick. He went to Home Depot. He was like, okay. We didn't know what it could possibly be because we had already cut the grass and everything. So it was like, man, what could it possibly be? It can't be too much. This guy came back with a pickup truck bed full of mulch, man. And it was like, hey, we gotta pull these weeds out this flower bed and remulch it. Yeah. And me and Lo looked at each other like, "Ooh, I should have just left." I should have left, cause that stuff turned to all day things, And then by the time you're able to go somewhere, it's almost time to come back home, So that's how that was.
So he was the kind of guy who's more along the lines of maintenance is a lot easier than repairing.
Yeah. He was just about standards and discipline. Cleanliness is next to godliness. That was his mantra, cleanliness is next to godliness. So everything had to be nice, neat, in order, and crisp, with him. But yeah, like that, how he would turn every conversation into something about an ass whooping. Those are the fondest memories, man. And
did he ever tell you how he grew up? The kind of environment he was in?
Yeah, he grew up essentially with a single mom. And then she eventually got married again, and then he had a 2-parent household again. But for the most part, it was him and his mom. And they, as growing up in Memphis as well, because he's from Memphis too. And she was pretty strict. So she was pretty strict. So
do you want to take a break or something just to?
Yeah, we take a break.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let's see. So was there somewhere specific you want to start? Or do you want to start with the diagnosis?
We'll just talk about family first.
Okay. Family first, diagnosis later.
Yeah.
Let me start with your wife.
As I mentioned earlier, we met freshman year. Her name is Jaquisha, to be exact. And we met in 2003 in college, man. We had an English class together. And saw her in the English class and was like, dang. So I wanted to know her, right? And eventually got the courage to go up to her and actually say something. So, and the rest is history from there. But she been by my side, man. You know, through thick and thin. Like, you know, even when we had a stint in college where we did break up or whatnot. That's when she had moved to Chicago and all of that. But even after all of that, it was like we got back together. Like nothing changed. Like nothing changed. The only thing changed at that time was she was making a lot of money, and I was broke, busted, and disgusted. I was a scrub out here, you know. And she took me in like a stray cat out the street, and got me groomed and tamed, you know. Yeah. So we got married in 2012, November 16, 2012, and you know, we started this military journey that next January 2013, and she's been riding with me ever since, man. Through it all, through the ups and the downs, you know, just riding with me. Essentially 5 years after we got married, we had our first child, which is Parker. And you know, going through that experience with her, to have him, it was a scary one because she had developed what they call preeclampsia. During the pregnancy is where the blood pressure in the mother spikes like extremely high, and it could be fatal. And so we end up having to have an emergency delivery of him, and he was born 7 weeks early, and 3 pounds 9 ounces. He was born. So he was healthy though, like nothing. He didn't have anything wrong with him. He was just tiny. So that, you know, the grace of God, he was just tiny, and he ain't tiny no more. But you know, he's 9 now. But going through that experience with it was our first like real like life or death experience of like, oh snap, like we don't know what's gonna happen. And but the tables were turned, you know. I was on the caregiver side, you know, and she was the patient that time. And I remember calling my father-in-law, Rod Harris. I remember calling him, man, and I was like, I couldn't even get it out. Like, I don't know what's about to happen. I don't know. You know, I'm expecting, you know, to go in here. I'm going in here with one person in this emergency C-section room, expecting to come out of here with 2 people. And I don't know if I'm going to come out with one person, 2 people, or nobody, you know, because that's how serious it had got at that point. But I'm having to tell her dad this, and it was hard. Yeah, that was hard. But we got through it, you know. We got through it with a healthy baby boy. Yeah. And then he was born in Kansas City, at KU Medical. And and he was born like right before we moved to Colorado, at the time. So yeah, he was kind of like me. He was born, and then I think he was 7 months by the time we actually moved. He was 7 months. And yeah, man, Parker Nolan story. And then fast forward 3 years later, we found out we was expecting another child. And this time we didn't want to, well, this time she didn't want to know the gender. I wanted to know the gender. But she didn't want to know. She wanted to just wait till the baby was born for us to find out. And I was deployed at the time. So I wasn't even in the United States. And she played a prank on me, sent me a package in the mail while I was deployed. And basically pretending to be a baby reveal, gender reveal. And it was just a prank saying that I'm just going to have to wait and see. And man, I was on fire. I was on fire. But it was nothing I can do about it. And then, fast forward, she has the baby. September 6, 2019. Parker was born July 11th. 2016, so 7-11. So we go get free Slurpees on his birthday every year. Yeah, that's the tradition. The whole family go get free Slurpees. But yeah, my baby girl Zoe, she was born September 6, 2019. But I was deployed, so I was on FaceTime, and my father-in-law was there with Jaquise while she was having that baby. And I think we was me and him was too hyped that it was a girl. Jaquise, I don't think at the time cared at the moment because she was exhausted probably. But we were too hyped. And we confirmed on the name, because I said I like Zoe, and my wife, she wanted to go with another name, but I said Zoe was on the list of names that we liked. I said it was one of the names I liked, and then when Rod saw her, my father-in-law, he came back to the camera talking about, she looked like a Zoe. She looked like a Zoe. So it kind of just confirmed it for me that, hey, that's the name.
I don't know why, but it's always fun to see Rod excited. Whenever he gets excited, he becomes this little ball of sunshine.
He gets super animated, man. Super animated, super hype, But yeah, those are the kids, man. They're 9 and they're 6. Parker's 9, Zoe's 6. They both in elementary school here. In the 4th grade, in the 1st grade. But they thick as thieves, man. Like they thick as thieves. And it's pretty cool to watch, especially me being an only child. From my mom. My mom's name is Deborah. We call her Debbie, but that's my mom's name. The story gets interesting from that point forward when I say I'm the only child from my mom. And if you go back in the story, I told you my granddad was my dad, but that's because I never knew who my dad was. So I never knew of a dad, of a biological father, like nothing, name, face, nothing. Never didn't know who it was. And ironically, back in, I want to say 2021, I know I was 38 years old. The answer to that question just fell out the sky. And I ended up finding out that I did have siblings. I have an older brother named Kevin, and a set of twin sisters named Kayla and Kyla. And we've been locked in ever since, man. Ever since. So that's a whole nother story in itself, though, how that information came about. It just randomly came about. I never searched. I never looked. I never asked who my dad was. And just one random day, literally the answer fell out the sky. Because he transitioned in 2009. So I never got to meet him. But, you know, it's crazy how life works sometimes, you know.
How'd you get the news?
Like, I was having a strange week at work. I was stationed in Fort Drum, New York, which is 3 hours from Buffalo, which is where I was born. And, you know, my mom and everybody, they still live there. And I was having a strange week where it was just on my spirit. Something kept telling me I need to get to Buffalo. And, but I didn't know what it was. And I thought maybe it was like, you know, God telling me to go check on your mom or whatnot. And I ended up, you know, I just kept saying every day I would come home from work and I was like, man, something on my spirit keep telling me I need to go to Buffalo. And then Jaquise, she was like, why don't you just go? Just go up there then, because it was only a 3-hour drive. And I ended up going. I ended up going because the kids were out of school that Friday, I believe. And we ended up going up there, driving up there. But anytime I hit the road, I always text my auntie and my uncle, hey, we hitting the road headed to wherever we traveling to, right? And this particular time, you know, I text them, and my Aunt Kathy, she calls me like immediately. As soon as I hear singing, she calls me. And I was like, that's odd. Well, maybe she finna tell me she's in Buffalo too, you know? And, cause she goes up there a lot too. And, she goes, no, she was like, yeah, I just got off the phone, you know, with my other aunt, my Aunt Peanut. And she was telling me that she ran into some of your folks. And I was kind of taken aback because I was like, her tone was like, you know, wasn't in third person. Because I'm like, y'all the only folks I know. So what do you mean ran into some of my folks? And she was like, yeah, on your dad's side. I'm like, dad? What dad? Who is this dad? And then she explained it to me. And then I get off the phone with her. And I call my Aunt Peanut. And I'm just calling, I'm not calling to ask. I'm just calling to test, you know. So I called and I'm like, hey, me and the kids are on our way to Buffalo. We're coming up there for the weekend. And she just gets all hysterical. She was like, Stephen, when you get here, just come straight to my house. I found your people. And I was like, yeah. And Kathy was just kind of telling me this. And then she explained to me that she was at a pain management doctor. And a girl that she was familiar with walked in with her aunt. And she said that she approached them and was telling them, hey, man, y'all have to see my nephew because he looks just like one of y'all. And they asked for a picture. She showed them a picture. And they was like, yeah, he's definitely a Todd. The last name is Todd. He was like, he's definitely a Todd, one of us. And so they exchanged information. She gave them my information. Excuse me. She gave them my information for them to be able to reach out. And they reached out via Facebook, and the rest was history, man. It was just like when I met them, when I met my dad's sister, like she was just staring at me like she was looking at a ghost. Because like I said, he passed in 2009, but she was just staring at me like she was looking at a ghost. And she just kept saying, "You my brother's child." Like, cause I'm standing here looking at my brother right now.
Yeah.
And I was just kind of like, "Oh, okay," you know, cause I'm one of them people that, like I said, I don't get too high, I don't get too low. So she was the one that told me, she was like, "Yeah, you got a brother and a set of twin sisters, and you know, blah 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 blah." So she gives me their contact information. I get their contact information, and then me and the kids leave Buffalo. We go back home to Fort Drum, New York. Now, I'm the type of person to just let things roll off. So in my mind, I was like, this all just go away. Like, I won't say nothing else about it. They won't say nothing else about it. It'll all go away. Like, I'm almost 40 years old at the time, 38 years old. I'm like, my life is very okay. You know what I mean? Like, you know, what's the necessity of this information now? You know? So I get back home expecting just out of sight, out of mind it. Like, I won't say nothing else about it. They won't say nothing else about it. And it'll just go away. And I couldn't shake it. Like, it consumed me. It consumed me to want to know. And because I never in my life wanted to know before. I didn't care to know before. And, you know, again, Jaquise was just like, "Hey, why don't you just get a DNA test done?" So I reached out to my brother. I was like, "Hey, man, if you're down to do a DNA test, you know, I'm down. I'm down to do a DNA test." He was down. So I drove back up there like a couple days later. We did the DNA test, and it was like, I called my mom, you know, because I didn't even tell her none of this was going on. I called her when I was in town, about to pick her up to take her to the appointment with us, because they had to use her DNA to cancel out, you know. And the moment he walked in the room, I was like, damn, man, he looked just like me. He looked just like me. This is crazy, you know. And I knew off the rip. Like, I knew off the rip, because I was like, man, he looked just like me, man. This is crazy. And I've never looked at it. Like, they tell me my son look like me all the time, and I can't see it. Like, I can't see it. But this grown man walked in this room, and I was like, he looked exactly like me. It's crazy. And it would turn into, well, since we're here, man, we might as well just go through the formalities of getting the DNA test, even though right now, like, we looking right at it, you know? So we did that, got the DNA test. It came back 99.998%. And it was crazy.
So there's a chance that you guys aren't related.
Somewhere down the line, you know what I mean? And we all, like, we confirmed it. I left town. I went back, met the twins, and man, we've been locked in ever since. Man. So yeah, that's the story behind that, as far as that piece of it.
Did they ever tell you what your father was like? Your biological father?
Every now and then they'll say something. They tell me I look just like him. But for the most part, we don't really discuss them. We don't have too much conversation about them, because our focus has just been our relationships with each other. Primarily because he's deceased, and there's nothing I can go back and learn, you know.
What do you love most about your family?
Everything, man. How we, like, just everything, how we come together just to achieve everything. The care, the love, you know, that's what I love.
The way that you raise your kids, is it more of like the Tennessee version, or more of the Massachusetts version?
Both.
Okay.
Yeah. So what they call it, righteous and ratchet. So it's a little bit of standards and discipline with a little bit of ghetto too, you know. But that's because I believe it's important to. There were some qualities that came out of my Tennessee version, some traits that came out of that version that I want my kids to have as well. So there are some characteristics and aspects of characteristics that came out of that with, like common sense. Like when you live and you growing up in the hood like that, hey man, the only way to survive is to have common sense. You know what I mean? So I try to preach common sense a lot to my kids. The standards and discipline part, from the Massachusetts version, yeah. There's a little bit of that in there as well. There's a little bit of that as well, I do try to manage the way I discipline them though. Like I don't really I don't really spank them or anything like that, so I guess that's what's different about it, but they do get reprimanded. They do get reprimanded for sure.
There was do you know who Alex Ramosi is?
Alex Mosey. Mm.
He's a big guy when it comes to like podcasts and stuff. One of the quotes that I like from him is, authenticity is what you are when there's the absence of punishment. So when there's no risk of losing anything, you will be your authentic self. Because obviously Rod has a lot of stuff around respect. How do you want your kids to grow up in a way that they'll be able to respect themselves while also still being authentic?
That's where the common sense piece come into play, right? For them to be able to know the difference between, playing with somebody or getting played by somebody. That's really it.
How do you identify the difference?
You just pay attention. Yeah, you just pay attention to actions, and not be listening. Not like you hear the words, but you pay attention to the actions.
Well, two questions, but kind of tied into the same. What have you learned being with your wife, and what have you learned being a father?
I for sure learned how to be financially disciplined with my wife, because she's a little bit more financially disciplined than I am. So I definitely learned that. And the kids is teaching me balance when it comes to nature versus nurture. They kind of teaching me that to have balance. Because I could very easily, take the way that I was raised and just push that on them. But, I recognize, like I'm self-aware of when I need to turn nature off and turn nurture on, and the difference between those two is nature is just our instinctive, like, hey man, you need to do X, Y, Z, blah, 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 blah. The nurture side is recognizing that they just genuinely don't understand what it is that they need to do. And grabbing them by the hand and showing them.
How would you describe your relationship with God?
Very close.
Very close. When did it first start?
Couldn't even tell you, man. But I just know when I reflect back on my life versus where I am today, it hasn't been nothing but God. And my faith in God, like I don't have no doubt in God at all. And my faith is just always, like, my faith is so strong in God that I always believe that no matter the circumstances, the outcome will always be positive. No matter what, the outcome would always be positive. So that's where I stand on that.
Is there any scriptures or any parts of the?
Not in particular. No.
How do you see God in your life?
Very present.
Very present. Okay.
Yeah. Very present.
How do you define presence?
Like here. Yeah. Like just being here, in the room, constantly filling my lungs with oxygen and waking me up every day, considering my circumstances physically, battling, this disease, because currently I'm battling stage 4, colon cancer. That's what I've been dealing with for the last 2 years. It's a little over 2 years now. I've been battling that, and it's been, the journey and the fight was great up until recently. But kind of like my health kind of took a little toll, unexpected turn, and but God keep waking me up to fight, so I'm just gonna keep fighting. As long as He keep waking me up to fight, I'm gonna keep fighting, because I want to watch my kids grow old. I want to see my kids grow, for sure.
There was one guy I had on my podcast, Jay Johnson. He's former Marine lieutenant, and did 2 episodes with him. He's a nut. But one of the things he said was he would describe himself as both a lover and a fighter. That there's part of him who knows how to fight because he does martial arts, but also he still has the love inside of him. Would you say you're also a lover and a fighter?
More so from the standpoint of, I would always choose to avoid the fight, like if possible. But I ain't running from no fight at all, because I will fight. I just because of my experiences in life, like I know when fighting is necessary and when it's not. And more times than not, most fights are not necessary. But I will. I just try to avoid it at all costs. I try to always be the cooler head and kind of keep the temperature down,
You're really good at like emotional regulation.
Yeah.
Kind of going back to what you were talking about when it comes to having the oxygen in your lungs, waking up every morning. Would you say a good deal of your discipline comes from the gratitude you have?
Yes. Yeah, very much so. Matter of fact, my uncle Angelo, that was one of his coined phrases that he instilled in us. Is to always be in a constant state of gratitude. CSG. We always say it to each other. CSG. Constant state of gratitude. And that's what helps you get through life. Cool, calm, and collective. You're never envious of anybody for what they got versus what you don't have. You never trying to outshine somebody. You go earn something or find something or find a way to make something, and you reach back and grab somebody else to try to bring them along the way as well. It goes back to when I was saying that like when I learn information, the first thing I'm looking for is somebody to pump the information to. And for the most part, they be looking at me crazy because they like, man, what are you even talking about? And it's like, don't worry about what I'm talking about right now. At some point, whatever it is I'm saying to you is gonna be relevant. and it's gonna click, and you're gonna have the information.
Yeah, that's kind of similar to relationships. It's not usually a compatibility problem. It's usually a timing problem. So it's like you learn something more about life, but it's just not it's not timed well for the person. It'll be compatible. Like, here's a life lesson. But why do I need to know it? Well, you don't need to know it now. You just need to know it when you need to know it.
Yeah. Conversations I've had were trying to tell people or explain to people that, maybe, like, always remember where you are in comparison to where the person is that you're giving the information to, right? So me sitting here at 41 years old, if I'm trying to spill some information to you at 21 years old, right? I don't have the expectation that you understand exactly what I'm saying right now, because you haven't reached that point yet. It's just information to put in your toolbox for when you do reach that point, right? So if I'm trying to put a 41-year-old life lesson into a 21-year-old, and it's like, man, why he can't just listen? Why he just won't listen? Because he's not there yet. He's not mentally there yet. He has no reason to apply this yet. So, but don't think it got lost. It's in there because you just put it in there. And once they get to that point, then it'll be like, oh, I remember when Steve said, XYZ, Oh, I remember another example, with I guess like with finances, right? And this is something me and my father-in-law spoke about before. He's very into that financial planning and everything. And every now and then it's frustrating that his younger kids don't see the big picture. And it's like, well, he can't see the big picture because you're 63 years old trying to get a 20-year-old
to look 40 years ahead.
And it's not realistic. It's not realistic. But don't think for 1 second that the information is being lost. It ain't being wasted. It ain't being lost. It's
not circulating.
It's not there yet. We're not there yet. The advantage we have is we've been 20 years old before. You get what I'm saying? Like, we've been 20 years old before, so we know exactly what's on the mind of a 20-year-old. We know exactly how a 20-year-old thinks. 20-year-old has never been 41 before or 63 before. So they have no idea what we talking about. You know what I mean? Or the big picture of what it is we talking about, because they just can't comprehend it right now. Yeah. But it'll get there eventually.
What would you say it could be one, it could be a couple of unteachable lessons that you learn from life? Something you can't teach someone, but you can just tell them this is what might happen.
And most of everything. But biggest ones is like, for me, is that expectations of others. Like, it's not a real thing, but trying to get somebody else to understand that, it's hard to get somebody else to understand that, because instinctively you want to expect the good in people, or you want to expect the worst in people. Whatever it is you want to expect in a person, you want to have an expectation of a person, and you just shouldn't. Or you just shouldn't, because you can't. You really can't, because you don't control that. You don't get to control it. You don't get no say in it or anything, man. So why bother? Right? Why bother get stressing yourself out?
Is that like a bittersweet part of love, that you can't control someone else, but you know that they're making a mistake? From your perspective of your experiences and not so much knowing everything that they're going through.
To a degree, yeah. Yeah, to a degree. I don't have much to expound on that.
Yeah, that's fine. One more tangent on gratitude. What would you say is the opposite of gratitude?
Ungratefulness.
Ungrateful. Okay.
Never being satisfied. Never find a place of contentment. Always yearning and burning and trucking toward the next thing. That's what I would describe that as.
Do you know the saying that the opposite of love is not hate but indifference? What does that make sense to you?
Opposite of love
is not hate; it's indifference. Because if you hate someone, you still love them to a point where you're putting your energy towards them, whereas indifference is like you don't care either way.
It makes sense.
Then would the opposite of gratitude not be discontentment, but rather complacency? That you've been doing the same thing over and over, and yet you don't want to do anything. You have everything you need.
No, I wouldn't say that. I wouldn't say that. I would just say ungratefulness. Because even terms like complacency, there's a time and place for that. Like it's not a bad thing to become complacent sometimes, right? Like if you gotten yourself to a very comfortable state, it's okay. It's okay to become content with that. You know what I mean? Versus, because if you don't, then you're gonna always feel like you got to keep striving for more and more and more and more and more, and before you know it, you done burnt yourself out because you constantly chasing, instead of taking the time to be in the maintenance phase of life. Of, hey man, I've gotten my life to where I desire it to be. I just want to maintain. I'm good here. I'm comfortable here. I just want to maintain. Right? But if you never get to that point, you'll never enjoy the fruits of your labors.
So is complacency and comfort synonyms for you?
Not all the way. There is toxic complacency. I do believe there is a such thing as toxic complacency, but just the term complacency alone, you know, people kind of, it has a negative connotation to it. And it's like, no, it's not all the way negative to become complacent, you know, because if you put in the work to get yourself to a point where you can afford to be complacent, then it may be a good spot for you. You know what I mean? But if you don't, again, you're just gonna keep grinding, chasing something you're never gonna catch. Right? You're never gonna catch satisfaction. Right? If you don't allow yourself to have that room, you know, to find that comfort, you know.
That makes sense. I don't know where to go with it, but it makes sense. You wanted to talk about your military career, right?
We can. So yeah. So I I enlisted in the Army. In January 2013, and so I'm like just over 12 and a half years now, and I enlisted as a specialist, and I did my time as an enlisted. I made it to the rank of sergeant on my enlisted days, and then I commissioned and became an officer in 2016. I became an officer, and I love what I do, man. I love what I do, just because, like I said, the military itself holds a special place for me because of what it's done for me, as far as like giving me that second chance at life, giving me hope, you know. And it's been a journey, man. It's been a journey, you know, up until, like, even now it's still a journey, but up until like my diagnosis, everything was great. Everything was perfect. You know, I was in command. I had just finished command, and you know, then I got my diagnosis, and they kind of changed the course of everything, to where now because of my health, I'm essentially on the verge of being medically separated, you know, from the military, which I'm at peace with now. I wasn't at peace with it before because I didn't want to go out like that. But I'm at peace with it now, you know. And yeah, I made it, you know, like I said, I was able to take my uncle's dream and carry it a little bit further, you know, to become a captain in the United States Army, you know, with the hopes of making it on this majors list, you know. So I can say that I was a major in the United States Army, man.
How would you describe hope?
To me, hope and faith are like one and the
Intertwined.
same.
Okay. Do you have a separation between the two?
No.
Just hope and faith are one without the other.
Like, you can't have one without the other. I can't have hope without faith, and I can't have faith without hope. So
Was that kind of how you went through college? You didn't have a dream, but you did have hope.
I just went through college. Yeah, I just went through college. There was nothing, like, I don't have no special story about getting through college or anything. I was there to accomplish a job, and I accomplished that job, and I moved on.
Before you got your diagnosis, you said that was your perfect life. That, like things were perfect. Would you see perfection as balance? Okay.
Yes. It was like, from my point of view, it was perfect because I was physically capable of going out and providing for my family the way that men should do, right? And I was doing it and being able to provide and afford my family a particular lifestyle, you know. That's what made it perfect to me. Yeah, with being in the military, you know, you lose a lot of time from your family and stuff like that, which is the sacrifice. The sacrifice you make when you sign up is the time away. But it's all for the benefits, you know, the stability and all those things. So that's what that was. But now, with this, with the diagnosis and with this phase of essentially being transitioned out, it does weigh on me mentally. It's like, okay, dang. Like, how do I provide for my family now? Like, how do I do these things? Even though there's things in place, but how do I provide for them in the same type of way? Right? The same type of way to where we don't have to change lifestyles.
Balance, is it logical balance or is it emotional balance?
Both. Yeah.
Okay. Would you say you're more of a logical guy or more of an emotional guy?
I'm logical.
Logical. Like 70-30?
Nah. Like
90-10?
Yeah.
Oh, damn.
Yeah, like 90-10 logical, man. Like, I don't like to do emotions. Cause emotions never lead to good. Like, they don't lead to good outcomes. Like emotional responses and things of that nature, right? Like, that goes back to that listening to respond versus listening to understand. An emotional person will never be able to listen to understand. they always gonna be enlisted to respond because they in their feelings, right? Their emotions gonna trigger them to react, and whatnot, you know?
Do you have a separation between reacting and responding?
Reaction is all emotion. Reaction is all emotion. Responding is responding can be with understanding. You know, so if I have listened to understand, I can respond with understanding. But if I'm not listening, if I'm listening to only respond, that's my emotions triggering me to react. I'm just reacting.
Why do you think you don't have as much of a tendency to trust your emotions or to make decisions based off of your emotions?
Because emotions are rarely right. Right? So like the phrase goes, like, everybody's entitled to their emotions, but your emotions don't make you right. You know, everybody's entitled to their feelings, but their feelings don't make them right. You know? So like you could be completely dead wrong, but your feelings and your emotions are telling you you're right. You're right for smacking that guy. You know what I'm saying? And it's like
justifying yourself emotionally, but not logically.
Yeah.
I always see feelings, like I don't trust my feelings, but I do trust my emotions, because my way of thinking is that my feelings could be something in my past, some judgment that I have, some like underlying thing that I haven't acknowledged yet could be influencing this decision. But my emotions are more like this is my response to this without any understanding of the feeling side. This is the raw, oh, this person is weird. This person is kind of strange. This person is really happy. This person like is a good person. So it's like, there's the emotional side of, this is why I feel, this is why something's happening, and this is why I feel the way I feel. Kind of, if that makes sense. Like, I don't trust my feelings at all. Like, I haven't done anything. Whenever something does, that I do something because of my feelings, it usually doesn't turn out the way I want to, because I like commitment, and I know I never get committed to something if I just do it because of my feelings.
Yeah. Like for me, I just, man, I ponder. So like I'm not gonna react on feelings and emotions. I'm not reacting and responding on feelings and emotions at all. Everything's gonna be logically thought out, you know? So that's where I sit with that.
There's a quote from Viktor Frankl. It's right on the front page of my website, and yet I still don't remember what it says. Something along the lines of between a stimulus and a response, there's a space, and in that space lies your freedom. In that space along the lines of there's this little space, and like usually people will take an input and then provide an output without taking a second to think about it, because usually like an amygdala response, because the amygdala is like the emotional center of your brain. Like whenever you get an input before it goes to your prefrontal, it goes to that amygdala. And so most people just take that emotional response and think that's a logical one.
Yeah.
Which, depending on the person, I mean, it could be men and women, but I tend to see that people will take either an emotional response or emotional problem or a logical problem and think that's a logical problem or an emotional problem. And then whoever they're talking to thinks that it's the other way around. And then there's this like massive miscommunication. It's like, that's why I don't trust my feelings, but I do trust emotions.
Yeah, get married, man.
I don't know.
It's going to happen all the time.
I know. That's why I don't want to.
It happens all the time, man. Because that's that nature versus nurture, right? It's just in a man's nature to think logically. It's in a woman's nature, like to nurture, you know, and what they call them. Some people are just what they call catastrophizers, right? That's how you end up in those type of situations where the logical person is not a catastrophizer. They see the issue and they see, okay, we got to fix the issue. So how do we fix the issue? The catastrophizer sees the issue, and they can't see beyond the issue because they've made the issue in their mind way bigger than it actually is. And figuring it out becomes way more steps than necessary, right? So yeah, that's what that is.
Well, that's kind of what we talked about earlier, that people want the result but not the work to go into it. There was a friend of mine on his second episode, he was talking about fair weather friends, that people will be there at your best, but they're not going to be there at your worst.
I don't think I have any of those.
No, not like that. I was wondering, how do you make sure you're always there for every moment of your marriage?
Just trying to be present.
Present? Okay.
Yeah. You're just trying to be present and aware, self-aware. And even externally aware of her feelings and her emotions. Now, for somebody like me, the issue comes, it's okay, I'm aware of it, but I genuinely don't know how to
solve it.
Well, sometimes I don't know, sometimes don't know how to be the person that I need to be in that particular moment to resolve that type of issue, because
what role you have to serve in that moment.
Yeah, because I never seen it before. I never been taught it. You know what I mean? So it's kind of like I'm learning along the way on how to handle these things and situations. So I recognize it, and most times not, just shut up. I just shut up. I be like, okay, well, let me just shut up before this go any further.
I think I've pretty much exhausted my ability to ask questions.
I mean, it's good. It's good. I think, I don't know.
Is there anything else you wanted to talk about? I mean, I got the 4 things that you liked. If you wanted to go over those, or no. It's what, 3 hours? 3.5. Start at 11, it's 1:30, so that's 2 hours, 2.5. That's plenty. 3 questions. 2 are my last 2, and then this is just like another one. What's the 3 biggest passions in your life?
My family. Well, put it this way, my wife, my kids, and my career. Yeah. Family though. Family is everything to me, man. Family is everything to me. Yeah. Even though I don't, they get on me a lot because I'm not a love person to say I love you and stuff like that. Cause I just like,
because you see it as an action.
In action. It's just like, but they know.
Yeah. Well, 3, 4 questions. 2 that I ask everyone. Assuming everything turns out all right, which I hope it does, who do you want to be 10 years from now? And given your age, what would you have told yourself 30 years ago?
10 years from now?
Mm-hmm.
I want, 10 years from now, I want my son I want to have had seen him graduate high school. I want to have seen my daughter in high school. Still be married, I
don't think you have a problem with that.
And, going on vacations and enjoying life with my in-laws, man. Particularly Rod Harris, if he slow his work down, man, he we like to work a lot, you know. I try to tell him, man, hey, work cutting into my time, you know. I'm acting like I'm his wife, right? But no, my mother-in-law, man, she great too. She makes sure I'm okay, you know. Tony Tone, yeah. So she makes sure I'm okay. But no, yeah, man, 10 years from now, just one of those things, just, maximize time with family and friends, family, and watch my kids grow.
Yeah. Well, what would you have told yourself 30 years
What
ago?
I told myself 30 years ago? Hey, man, everything gonna be okay. Just don't do nothing too stupid too soon. Don't do nothing too stupid too soon, and everything will be okay. Yeah.
Yeah. So last question, which is kind of like a two-part question. Assuming it doesn't turn out all right, what would you want to tell your kids?
I love them. I just I love them. Yeah, I love them, and I just want them to be the best person that they can be.
Okay.
That's it, man.
I got nothing else. Thank you.
Thank you. Shit, man.
I'm sorry. I didn't know it was going to be